Morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Councillor. Morning.
Morning. Morning. Good morning, Councillor.
I'm Councillor David Shaw, Chair of the Licensing Committee. I would like to welcome all of you to today's licensing meeting. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting the public can attend. Before we commence, I would like to outline the domestic arrangements for the meeting. We're not expecting a fire practice today. Is that still the case? Nothing's changed. Thank you. If the alarm sounds, please leave the chamber, then turn right and proceed down the stairway and through the emergency exit on the ground floor. The assembly point is in the public square in front of CAS beyond the fountain. Anybody with mobility issues should wait in the refuge area near the lift and use the intercom to call for assistance. This meeting will be recorded and published on the council's website. By entering into the council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the council. If anyone intends to record today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting. Please ensure that your mobile phones are either switched off or on silent. Thank you. I will now commence the meeting. Item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies? No? No apologies? Thank you. Item 2, exclusion of the public and press. There are no items on the agenda where the public and press are to be excluded. Is that agreed? Agreed. All agreed, thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No? Okay, lovely. Item 4, minutes of the licensing committee meeting held on 26th June 2024. Can the minutes be moved as a true and accurate record, please? Seconded?
Seconded.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You get that? Yeah, thank you. Lovely. So, item 5, Statement of Licensing Policy 2025 Gambling Act 2005. Can I invite David Smith to introduce this item? Over to you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, under the Gambling Act 2005, licensing authorities are required to produce and publish a statement of licensing policy and to review the policy every 3 years. The policy sets out the steps which applicants need to take in order to be reasonably consistent with the 3 licensing objectives, which are preventing gambling from being a source of crime or disorder, being associated with crime or disorder, or being used to support crime, ensuring that gambling is conducted in a fair and open way, and protecting children and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by gambling. It also sets the basis for all relevant licensing decisions over the next 3-year period, including how the licensing committee will conduct hearings for applications which cannot otherwise be resolved. This is the 7th version of the policy, and other than some administrative changes and minor additions identified through consultation, the policy remains largely unchanged from the current version. The decision to adopt the revised policy is taken by full council, and failing to review or to adopt the policy has the potential to create a risk to the local authority, who as a result may not be able to discharge its functions under the Gambling Act 2005. The report recommendations are that members of the Licensing Committee note the response to the consultation and the reviewed Statement of Licensing Policy Gambling Act 2005 and recommend it for consideration by Cabinet with a view to it being adopted by full council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now invite members of the committee to ask questions related to the item. Have we got any questions? Councillor Nevitt.
Thank you, Chair. On page 41, 4.6, it says about adult gaming centres. I'm just concerned about these centres aren't allowed to admit under 18s. How do we stop under 18s visiting and entering these establishments where we know that people who go on social media who are below age limits also access these platforms? So it's a case of how do we make sure that under 18s don't get admitted to these facilities? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. So, prior to any premises coming to us to apply for a licence, such as an adult gaming centre, the operator of that business must first obtain a licence through the Gambling Commission in order to offer gaming facilities. The penalties for such an operator to be caught with somebody under 18 on their premises would not only be issues with the local authority who can take action, but the Gambling Commission can actually remove their operator's licence and stop them from trading full stop. So it is in their best interest to ensure that everybody on their premises is above the legal age. They have to display a sign to say that, and they have to make regular checks in order to do so. They also, similar to licensed premises under the Licensing Act, alcohol premises, they have to have age verification. Something in the news recently has been reported that they've got to do at the Challenge 25, which is similar to alcohol premises. So the obligation is very much on them to ensure that there are no under 18s on their premises. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you like to come back? Yep.
Can I just ask then, how many visits were made to these licensed establishments to check that they're adhering to that license?
It's not information I have with me at the moment. It may well have been referred to at the last committee in June, which was the statement of facts and figures, or the number of licences issued may well have included inspections. So that information may well be available, but it's not something I can give you today, I'm afraid.
Maybe that's something you could provide for the committee members, you know, as soon as practical. That'd be great. Thank you. Do any other members have any questions at all? Councillor Noon?
Thank you. Just after a bit more information, really. It says on page 35 of the, or 37 in this actual thing, decisions as to whether representations are irrelevant, frivolous or vexatious will be made by council officers. So it's taken out in consultation with the chair of licensing committee. It also then says that there's no right to appeal. Just why are we getting rid of that extra little bit with a chair of licensing? I think that's important.
The reason it's being removed is because that's something that was written in there when this policy was first written. Well, this is the 7th version. It's every 3 years. So around 2005, 2006. The process for hearings for the Gambling Act mirror the Licensing Act 2003, and the delegated power for representation sits with officers. To my knowledge, we've never consulted with the chair. That's an anomaly which doesn't match the current delegation of powers, and so it was just something which has never been picked up before, which has been taken out. So I appreciate on the face of it, it looks like we're cutting out the chair from decisions, but in reality, it's a process that's never been. Excuse me, it's a process which we've never been followed. There are reasons for that. The chair of the committee, obviously, if you're taking a subcommittee to make a decision on an application, is it fair that you would see some of the evidence before it came to you without seeing everything in a single report? Very recently, we've had a gambling application where somebody tried to make an objection on the very last day at 3 o'clock, and a decision had to be taken. If we then had to consult with you before we could decide that, once we get to midnight, that application's granted unless we've determined whether or not that representation is accepted. So the process has always been that it's an officer decision. If that's something you want to look at and to look at possibly reversing, I believe that'd have to be done at the beginning of the year through the terms of reference and delegations. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I think that it would have been useful. I accept your explanation, and I think this was brought to my attention through the Overview and Scrutiny Committee by one of its members, and I think it was probably discussed there, and this is why it's probably passed through at this point without challenge. I think it would have been really useful for you to have drawn attention to it in the first place within the report, you know, highlighted it from a point of view of, obviously, we've just said it's administrative changes, or you've just said it's administrative changes. I think so. Then we do have that up, because I think none of us want to hold this up particularly. However, it's something that, you know, well, it's for committee to decide. Do we want to look a little bit deeper into it, or do we accept the explanation given to us? I'm not suggesting it's not correct, but I think it's a decision for the committee to have a quick think about whether we want to investigate further or whether we're happy to accept the explanation.
For me, I know, like you said, it's never been used, but it takes away that option if chair ever sees something that he doesn't agree with or potentially should be in there or something like that. I know it's never been used, and likelihood that it will never be used, but it's then taking them powers away completely from licensing committee, so he's got no say in the matter whatsoever.
Marie Claire's going to come in and just advise.
Sorry, I think it's not something that you have sometimes. If you have it in there, it's got to be all times. So what do you do on those days when somebody submits an application out on time or puts a representation in on time, but the chair's not available to look at it and then it's granted? It can't be only when the chair's available, it has to be an all or nothing. I'd just ask you to bear that in mind if you are considering including that. And I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I think it might be abundantly clear to anyone who would look at it whether a representation's vexatious and irrelevant. I don't think it's something where you'd have a few people looking at it. I think it would be really obvious, but it is a matter for you.
I'd challenge that opinion just on the basis that we've had it in all these years and it's never been adhered to. So we can obviously deviate. So it can be deviated from because we've deviated from it for all these years.
When people that it might be there, so to me, it is an anomaly that it's not being used, but I think now it's been brought to everyone's attention. Are you still going to have it? It is a matter for you whether you have it, but...
Can I say, I'm behind you, Chair. You can't see me. You know. No, I'm quite happy to accept the officer's explanation. These things do happen, and I think we need to be... I understand what Councillor Noonan's saying in terms of the loss of power, shall we say, or decision-making from the chair. But as we've never used it for goodness knows how long, and we're in a position now to tidy the policy up, let's take it out.
I'm of the same opinion, to be honest with you. But I think just so we're clear, so if all those in favour of accepting this particular aspect of the report just wants to raise their hands, and then we can move forward. Okay, so I believe that's accepted. Yeah.
Can I just come back?
You can, Councillor, yeah.
Thank you. I do understand the need to tidy these policies up, and not necessarily it's going to be this. It could be looking at our licensing policy, if something we've missed. But if you do decide to take anything out, can it be brought to the chair or the committee that you are taking something out and the reasons why? So we all get full aware of it, please.
Yeah, my apologies for not drawing attention to it. As I say, it was an anomaly which was being corrected, and forgive my understanding, I saw it as an administrative change because it was something that shouldn't be there, that we've never used, and so that's why it was removed and not referred to. With regards to bringing it to your attention, everyone in this room was sent this policy as part of the consultation. So that it has not been shared. It's not something that's been hidden from you until today. Everyone was sent the same thing as part of consultation.
That's not my meaning. If at any point we haven't seen anything and you've come across something within the licensing policy that you're tidying up, you know, something that's been there and nobody's used, can you always draw the attention to it in licensing, whichever policy it is? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anything from anyone else at all? No? Okay. No. The only thing I was just going to mention, it's just for noting really, it's not any kind of objection. I'm just pleased to see the representations from Rachel Leslie, the Assistant Director, Deputy Director of Public Health. And just I think it's, yeah, and not only is it, I think, useful to be noted and included within the report, I think from a committee point of view, you know, it's important to have that to fall back on as reasons as we may or may not grant licences. I think that, you know, we have a significant public health issue in Doncaster, and it's something that is very difficult to tackle, and I think that those inclusions may well be useful at times over the coming years. So it was just to kind of commend the fact that Rachel has put them forward and that they've been accepted, I think in their entirety, if I'm correct. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say on it. So if we're all done on that, just to check, no one else wants to make any further contributions or questions? No. So the recommendation in the report, the recommendation in the report recommends that members note the response to the consultation and the reviewed statement of licensing policy, Gambling Act 2005, and recommend it for consideration by Cabinet with a view to bringing it to being adopted by full council. Is that agreed? Agreed. Yeah, I think that's unanimous. The recommendation is agreed. That now concludes the items of business on the agenda. I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today and for their input. I will now close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair, did we get a